following is a guide to setting up and installing CRM for Pastel. PDI CRM requires 4 key components: the application, the Firebird database engine, the Firebird ODBC and Crystal Runtime. All must be installed. I have downloaded the 4 key components required for CRM from PDI Spirit. This includes the Firebird install, which includes the server and the client engine, the Firebird ODBC, which is for reporting from the Firebird database, the Crystal setup, runtime 11, and the main application itself. The file name here is 414. Depending on the current release, your file may be different. Now we have all these, we can begin to install our applications, starting with the Firebird installation. Once we have double clicked on the Firebird install, the Firebird welcome screen will appear. The version I'm installing here is 2.1.1.17910. Depending on the current release of Firebird, this version may be different. Firebird its setup is relatively simple. It is basically a next install. So we'll just click next to start. I accept the agreement of the license. Choose next. I can see the current release documentation on Firebird Server 2.1. I'll choose next, and I can leave the default installation as shown. By default, I'm going to install the super server. I would leave everything else. If I'm not installing the server components, if I've already installed those on my main machine, I can untick these two, the developer admin tools and the server components, and just install the client components, which you see is relatively small. If I'm going to choose the server, then I'll do server binary, and I can choose the admin tools as well, and in this case we'll install this machine as the server. I choose next, tell it the shortcut. I can then set up that I want to run the server as a service. I want to use the Guardian, which basically keeps a look over the service, and if it stops it will restart. I want to start Firebird when it automatically boots up. I want to install the control applet so I can see it, and you can generate a client library as GD32, the old interbase, if required. I mean, leave all these if you're installing the server as ticked. You can change at a later stage. Choose next and install. You'll now go off and install, in this case, the server components. If I was installing just the client, it will install just the client components, and once it's finished we will have Firebird installed and set up, ready to go. And there we go. As changes have been made, we can restart now, or if you're working on something else we can restart at a later stage, but you will need to restart to make the application load when Windows loads and ensure that your Firebird server is running. We can now install the Firebird ODBC driver. This is used within CRM for reporting purposes only. We don't use this for data connection, but you will need the ODBC set up and running to ensure your CRM reports function. Again, this is a next install, so we can just choose next from the welcome screen. We can accept the license agreement, choose next, skip over the welcome documentation, and we can just leave the default installation folder as shown. choose next. Various different options. You can just install everything including documentation. You can deploy the install and no documents, or you can install the documentation only. In this case we'll actually install everything. It'll be just simpler, and we can just choose next. Leave the startup menu folder the same, choose next, and press install once we're happy. And it'll go off and install everything we require. We're finished. It's just giving us the final information, the final driver readme. We can choose next. We don't need to view the readme text, and we're finished now installing the Firebird ODBC. PDI CRM uses Crystal Reports Runtime to generate all its reports within the system. Double click on the installation to start, and it is just simply a next install. So we'll choose next. We can leave the default destination, choose next, and click install. The system will now install all the required runtime files for Crystal Reports 11. If you already have Crystal 11 on your system, then the file So now our Crystal runtime is complete, and we can finish that install. Now we have installed our three main components, the Firebird server or the Firebird client if you're using a different machine for the server, the Firebird ODBC, and the Crystal. We can actually install CRM itself. We'll check next from the welcome screen and agree to the license. We then have some optional items we can install. I'm going to install everything because I want to be able to create the new database. I want to be able to run a conversion if possible from a previous CRM, and I also need my templates for my mail merge. The Firebird server I don't need to install as I've already installed those, so I can leave those unticked. Everything else will be installed as standard, anything that is grayed out. So I can choose next and choose install. You'll now go through and extract all the applications, all the required settings for CRM to function. And once complete, I can choose finish. If you install CRM with all the optional applications, then you'll have 4 applications within the C:\program files PDI Spirit CRM 4 Windows folder, and we can just see the applications here. CRM Connect enables you to set up the connection details to the Firebird server. CRM Convert will enable you to convert data from a previous version of CRM. CRM Lite, the application itself, and CRM New DB that will create a new Firebird database that will hold all of our CRM data and will link through to our pastel data. You must have one of these installed, and we'll take a look at each one individually.